The number of athletes receiving death threats has skyrocketed over the last few years. And while there are a few reasons for that, one thing stands out well above all the rest: sports betting. What used to be a fun way to root for your teams with friends and get some skin in the game has become a system that fuels anger, obsession, and threats. It's a massive systemic issue that's changing sports, and definitely not for the better. Now, we're not just talking about a few isolated incidents here either. We're talking about an entire cultural shift that's affecting the way that we watch games, how we treat players, and of course, how we communicate with those athletes online. This isn't just about the professional athletes either. Even student athletes, some of them literally teenagers, are being bombarded with online hate because they didn't cover the spread or because they sold on someone's parlay. If that sounds insane to you, good, because it is. Let's talk about how we got here and what it really means when I say sports betting is ruining sports. Take a moment and imagine this. It's the fourth quarter. Tensions are high. The Eagles are playing the Packers in the playoffs. Saquon Barkley, the absolute GOAT, is sprinting down the field with a clear shot at the end zone. While this is happening, Green Bay fans are having the sinking realization that the Eagles were going to win this one. Fans are on their feet, everyone's cheering, beers are flying in the air, but instead of charging into the end zone, he slides down. It's a smart veteran football move, a strategic decision to run out the clock and secure the win instead of tacking on extra points. The Eagles win the game, but the internet? Well, it loses its mind. People flood TikTok and Twitter with hate. He just cost me $5,000. Dude sold my parlay. Piece of shit. Most hated player after that move. It turns out that a lot of the public had taken Saquon to score a touchdown during that game. He was, of course, putting up MVP numbers during the year. And his decision to run out the clock instead of punching in an extra score cost the public millions of dollars. Let that sink in, though. The team wins, gets the praise, and the player who helped it all happen gets death threats because he didn't cross the goal line. Why? Because people don't care about the game anymore. They only cared about their bets. We used to have sports fans watching the NFL. Now it seems we just have a bunch of gambling fans. This isn't an isolated incident either. This is the new normal. And I know this because I've been studying this space religiously and creating content for the last 2 years. My name's Rob, and I'm in recovery from a gambling addiction. I made my last bet on November the 12th of 2022 and realized that I couldn't sit by and watch other people go down the same path that I did. I'm someone that used to be really angry with players all the time, as my bets would miss by a point here or a rebound there. I was in the shoes of the guy who had his parlay sold by a player just like Saquon. It absolutely consumed me, and I don't want that for you or anyone that you know. Hit that subscribe button and join me on the journey to spread the truth about gambling before too many people end up struggling with an addiction at worst, or at best, a losing parlay ticket. We used to sit down and watch a game hoping to see greatness. Now, people sit down sweating bullets over whether a backup wide receiver gets over 42.5 receiving yards. You can't really even enjoy the game anymore. You're too focused on covering the spread, winning back the money that you just blew on the last parlay you put in, and of course, trying to get that win that'll change everything. Even the legends see it. Tom Brady, arguably the greatest football player of all time, though he also did lose to the Eagles back in 2017, 2018, has openly said that he hates what gambling is doing to the NFL. He called it a stain on the integrity of the sport, not just because it changes how fans behave, but because it creates a cloud of doubt around everything, every play, every decision. If a player makes a bad play, is it just a mistake? Or was it rigged? Did he throw the game to cash a bet? That's the thought process sports betting injects into the minds of millions. And it's creating a culture of suspicion, disrespect, and as we sometimes see, outright hate. Nowhere is this clearer than during March Madness. In 2024, 54,000 social media posts were flagged as potentially dangerous threats during the tournament to players. Let's say that number again because it is insane. 54,000. And that was just last year. In the meantime, more states have legalized sports betting, and God only knows how many gambling ads have aired since that point. Remember that those threats were aimed at college students. Kids who are still trying to figure out their lives, who are playing for pride, their school, or maybe a shot at going to the league. When I was 18 years old, which admittedly wasn't that long ago, my biggest stressor outside of gambling was trying to remember to set an alarm to get up for class the next day. These students, they're living a nightmare in comparison. They're waking up to messages like, kill yourself, you sold me, you better pray I don't find you. We are pushing athletes into a mental health crisis. Since 2019, rates of mental exhaustion, anxiety, and depression among student athletes are up by around 150%. 41% of student bettors are placing bets on their school's own teams. This means that a player could be receiving hate from his own classmates, people he's walking to class with, studying with, eating lunch next to, because he didn't score enough points to help their parlay cash, he gets all this hate. And it's gotten so bad that the NCAA has now gone out and educated over 500,000 athletes on how to handle harassment due to sports betting. Not how to manage pressure, not how to win, but how to survive being harassed because someone else lost a bet. Or even handle a situation where someone is trying to bribe them or influence them to change the result of a game that they're playing in. But why does this all matter? Well, because it's not just about the money. It's about what we're turning sports into. The heart of sports used to be connection, a shared moment between fans, families, and athletes. A place where anything could happen, where underdogs could win, where rivalries were fierce but respectful, most of the time. But now, we're turning it into a numbers game, into a high-stress casino with jerseys and scoreboards instead of poker chips and blackjack tables. One where student athletes are just numbers on a spreadsheet. People no longer cheer when their team scores. They check their apps. They refresh their bet slip, and they wait to see if that score is enough to make the over hit. And for the athlete, the joy of winning, the thing they've worked so hard for their entire lives, is often met with a wave of hate, all because someone's same game parlay didn't cash. I mean, imagine that. You win a championship for your school. You just gave your blood, your sweat, your tears for months. And you go home to 1,000 DMs calling you a fraud because they bet the over on your rebounds. I know this all too well because I used to be one of the gamblers on that side of the coin. I remember sweating over every single play, every snap, every shot, not because I cared at all about the game or the team, but because I had hundreds, sometimes thousands of dollars at risk. I didn't even enjoy watching anymore by the end. It wasn't fun. It was just stress. I grew up thinking I was a big sports fan, but looking back, I really couldn't have cared less about the game, just the profits. I was really just a big gambling fan. When it didn't go my way, I lashed out, maybe not directly at the athletes, but I understand exactly how people get there mentally. The addiction warps your brain. That's the truth about gambling addiction that no one seems to want to talk about. It doesn't just hurt you. It changes how you see the world and how you treat those around you. It turns the game into a nightmare and the players into targets. If you're watching this and you felt that shift in yourself as a result of your gambling, finding yourself getting angry, obsessively checking stats, or caring more about the bet than the game, you're not alone. There's a way out of this. There's a way to enjoy sports again, to cheer because it's fun or because you're watching with people you love, to reconnect with what made you fall in love with the game in the first place. It's time we ask, is this really how we want to experience sports? Maybe for you, it means leaving gambling in the past, or at least learning more about your relationship to the bets that you're placing. If that sounds like it could be the case for you, then check out this video and let's keep getting better together, one day at a time.